Welcome to the Kurt and Kenny podcast. Coming at you from Work in Progress co-working in downtown Las Vegas. We're here to talk about growing your business, making more money, and thriving in a startup life. Here they are, Kurt and Kenny.
Hey, welcome to the Kurt and Kenny podcast. This is Kenny.
This is Kitty.
And we're here to talk about entrepreneur stuff. If you just listened to the last podcast, you just heard Kurt ramble on for a really long time about all his stories. Kurt's not in the room, so I can make fun of him right now.
And
you
now, can make fun of him when he is in the room.
Oh, I do that too, I guess. Now it's your turn to hear my stories, and I'm going to try to go longer than Kurt. Not really. What do we got, Kitty?
So we're kind of talking about entrepreneurship, what it's like in life, the roots of your entrepreneurship journey, whether entrepreneurs are born or made. So we're going to cover a lot of ground. Let's start with your early entrepreneurship story. Do you have one of those like when I was a kid kind of entrepreneur stories?
So the one story I remember the most was way back. I don't even know how old I was. I was little. My dad and we lived over off of Spencer Drive in Las Vegas. I think it was Spencer. And we were driving by a Kmart that had just closed on Eastern and it was like Eastern and Trop or Eastern and Flamingo. And it was going out of business. And I remember having a long talk with my dad about why did Kmart go out of business? Like, it's a big, successful company. Why are they shutting the doors? I mean, this is late 80s. Why are they shutting the doors on this location? Is it the location? Is it the demographics in this neighborhood? Is it the types of people going to the store? Did they not have the right products? You know, we had all this long talk. So that was probably the earliest story and earliest memory I have hanging out with my dad and doing that. But growing up, my dad is a entrepreneur. He only in his 50s started his first big business, but he had many smaller businesses over the years amongst working for other companies. And he's always in entrepreneurship mode. He's always looking at businesses while we drive around, looking at billboards, looking at their marketing, why they're doing what they're doing. So from a very little age, I've been exposed to marketing / entrepreneurship.
So it was kind of in your blood the whole time?
Yeah, pretty much. My dad's my poor mom, my crazy dad, and all his wild ideas. He's now jumping on trampolines for a living. So at the age of 60 almost. So that shows you how crazy my roots go.
So growing up and seeing your dad be an entrepreneur, obviously there's some ups and downs to that kind of lifestyle. And there's some advantages and disadvantages to it. Did you always think you were going to be an entrepreneur, or did you think, I'm going to go get a real job?
I did not. Well, I guess it was always in the back of my mind, like it would be fun, but I never knew what I would do or how I would do it. So I was definitely set course for traditional job. I went to, like a lot of listeners probably know, I'm LDS. I went on a mission, and then when I came back, I graduated from UNLV, and my plan at that point, or because of my mission, I learned Spanish and went and got my degree in Spanish. And along somewhere in there, I ended up getting a job at a law firm, being a Spanish interpreter, which was awesome. I loved it and stayed there for almost 8 years. And over the course of being it was a personal injury law firm. Over the course of being there, I actually fell in love with the job and meeting the people and helping these people that were injured. I know that sounds cliche, being a PI firm, ambulance chasers, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. And so I made the crazy decision to go to law school because they pretty much said I could have a position if I went to law school and passed the bar. It wasn't anything formal, but it was. I had a really good relationship with those guys. So I did. I went to law school. The first one in my family to ever go to graduate school. First one in a while in my family to graduate from college in general, let alone go on to graduate school. So I was kind of in the wild west of the unknown of how to do it and where to go and how to apply and what everything meant. And so we visited a few different law schools. I passed the LSAT, went to visit a couple different law schools, decided on a law school down in San Diego, California Western. One of the attorneys had gone there, and I had a couple friends that were going there. So I'd heard good things, made the decision. We moved our family down there. I had just gotten married not too long before that to my awesome wife. And as far as she knew, I was going to be an attorney. That was the plan from day one. Poor girl. And went to law school. Do you want to hear the law school story?
Of course I want to hear the law school story.
So law school's 3 years, and I went for 1. That's the story. I'm not an attorney. The longer version of the story is I went without knowing 2 very important things in law school. Note to everybody who's going to law school. If you want to go to law school, there are 2 important things. One is that there is a grading curve, and it is a real curve, not like the curve you got in high school when teachers, kind of threw out the lowest grade or whatever. This was, you are graded against your peers. So the person who did the best got the A, the person who did the worst got the F. That plays out really, really crazy ways in law school. I did okay. I averaged a low B average. But if you're in a smart class, you're in a smart class, and you have to keep up or else you get a bad grade. Hopefully you're in a dumb class and you're the smart one, because then you get the higher grades. So that was one of the learning points. The other learning point, which played out to be pivotal in the existence of my law school career, was many law schools, not all law schools, but many law schools cut a bottom percentage of the first year class every single year. And they do that so that they can keep their bar passage rates up after people graduate from law school. So you go to the 3 years. If you don't pass the bar, that looks bad on the law school. Cutting a percentage of the bottom of the first year class hopefully helps improve that bar passage percentage rate so that they look better and they keep their accreditation and everything else. So I was down in San Diego. I had a lot of friends that were going to different law schools. At the end of the first year, I learned about this. I didn't even know about it until the end of the first year. And a lot of my school's friends cut the bottom 3% of their class, which out of 100 kids in your class, 3 guys get kicked out. That's sad, but they probably sucked. They go home. The school I decided to go to cut the bottom 33% of the class in order to keep the percentages up. And I had a 79.8% or something like that average. And my law school career was over. So back we went to Las Vegas, and it was an interesting road, but I wouldn't change any of it. I learned a ton. I enjoyed law school. I would have been just fine as an attorney, but life didn't have that in store for me, and here I am back in Las Vegas. Is that what you wanted to hear? You didn't know that until right now.
I did not know that. I just know that you'd only done a year of law school.
I did not quit. I got the boot, those punks.
That's okay. I got kicked out of college my first semester, too.
Basically, I spent a gajillion dollars to live in San Diego for a year and have a couple of friends to show for it, which we love those friends. Shout out to those friends if they're listening. They're our favorite San Diego prize. They just cost me a whole lot of money to gain.
Well, I mean, failures are a part of entrepreneurship, right? Failures are
I'm a
always
pro.
learning experience.
I'm a pro at failures. I joke with my friends that I have 3 big failures in life. Most of the things that people do once and get it right, I have done twice, and it took me twice on every one of them. So the first one was I got married and then divorced after 6 months. So shout out to those divorcees out there. It was a great 6 months, I guess. Learned a ton, and now I have a new wife who is the most awesome chick I've ever been with ever. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. We've been married for almost 10 years. I bought a house in 2006, and if anybody remembers when that was not a good time to buy a house. I sold it 2 years later for less than a fifth of what I paid for it. So, and then the last one is graduate school. So went to graduate school. A lot of people do that and do it right. I went and got kicked out after a year. So, and here I am now being an entrepreneur. So learn from your failures.
So was NeONBRAND your first kind of foray into entrepreneurship, or did you have some false starts before NeONBRAND?
That was my first committed start, I guess. My dad had started the trampoline business a couple years before NeONBRAND, and I had helped with that a lot, but it was definitely not my business. I had done, every place I ever worked, I ended up doing way more than was ever asked of me. So, I remember working at a bike shop when I was 16, a little BMX bike shop, and they did not have any formal inventory, and for whatever reason, I was just the peon register kid, but I felt like we should have an inventory, so I inventoried the entire store and got them all online. That was early on, and then the law firm I worked at, they hired me to translate and be a legal assistant. I ended up doing a lot of their practice management and IT and everything else. So no official entrepreneurship businesses per se, but I've definitely been the kind that always did as much as possible to help a business succeed, whether or not it was my job or not.
So Kurt actually talked a lot about being entrepreneurial in the various jobs that he's had. And both of you seem to kind of share this perspective where we think of entrepreneurship as being the opposite of having a job somewhere, but Kurt's talking about hiring entrepreneurial people at NeONBRAND, which is a job. So do you think being an entrepreneur is something that you can only do if you're starting a business, or do you think you can be entrepreneurial no matter what your situation is, or there's some middle ground?
Yeah, one of the things that an entrepreneur must have, and I think one of the things that attracts Kurt and I to entrepreneurs more than anything, is that if you're going to be successful as an entrepreneur, you have to have impeccable work ethic. And so we want people with great work ethic around us all the time, because the better people work, the better end products are. And so we want to harness that ethic and make not only their lives better, but the lives of our clients better in the same vein. So you don't necessarily have to have a startup business to have good work ethic or to be entrepreneurial minded. There are ways to succeed and go above and beyond what is being asked of you in every job and every position that you can have out there. Those are the types of traits that carry over into a successful entrepreneurial lifestyle, I think.
So entrepreneurs are always trying to make something better. They're not just happy with the status quo.
Yeah. It's a definite, the phrase that I've used before is, and I think it's a thing, is unrealistic optimism. Basically, you're just out there to make everything succeed better, do better. You're out there to do better with whatever's been given you, whether or not life says you should be able to do it or not. You're going to keep going unrealistically because you know that you can make a difference and make stuff better. So
you were married when you started NeONBRAND, right?
Yes, I was. We were married for, 3 years? About 3 years.
And how did Danielle take it?
Well, poor Danielle. She thought I was going to be a lawyer. But no, Danielle's always been super great. She's so supportive of everything. So she knew that I was working at the law firm then too, and it was a great job, made great money, and it would have been a great career had I chosen to stay there for a long, long, long time. But Danielle knew, just like I knew, that I wanted to do more than just be at the law firm. I wanted to build something. That was my goal in life, my outlook on things, I guess. I don't know. So whenever I told her, hey, I think I want to partner up with my buddy and start this marketing company, she was supportive and scared all at the same time. Didn't know what that meant. I mean, she grew up in a very traditional household with a dad who worked and a mom who helped at home and had a part-time job. So she didn't really know what the entrepreneur life might bring, and boy, have we learned, huh, Danielle? So she was supportive. She still continues to be supportive, but it is a rough lifestyle for sure on the spouse.
And now you have 4 kids.
Yeah, we had one when we started, so we had Kaylee, and now we have 4 little hoodlums running around the house. So we got Kaylee, Bo, Trey, and Sammy.
So something interesting came up in Kurt's story that he never was an entrepreneur and working a job at the same time. He didn't do the side hustle, and he believes that he wouldn't be as successful had he started his consultancy on the side while he was running his business. But when you started NeONBRAND, it was something you did on the side, right? And it grew from there.
Yeah, so when we started, I might have mentioned this in our NeONBRAND story, but when we started NeONBRAND, there wasn't enough money to support me and my partner not working full-time. So if I wanted to be able to pay my bills, I had to do the side hustle. So I worked at the law firm still, did the 9 to 5, came home. I had the wife and baby at the house, hung out with them for 3 or 4 hours after 5 o'clock until baby would go down and Danielle would go to sleep. And then I would work from about 10 till 3 in the morning, which was convenient back at that time because early days NeONBRAND, like a lot of startups, we were outsourcing our workload to India or wherever those guys were at, but there were a lot of Indian guys. And so their waking hours were at that same time. So I was awake while they were awake, and we busted out whatever we could during those wee hours of the morning, and then back to work at 9 a.m. the next day at the law firm. So yeah, I definitely felt that pain for a while.
Do you feel like working that kind of schedule is part of your success? You learned more discipline there, or that it was just kind of a necessary evil?
Both, probably. It was a necessary evil. Would I've benefited? I would have been just fine not doing that. I mean, it sucked. I was tired during those. It was like 6-7 months that I had to do that. But it was necessary evil. I learned, well, the thing was I didn't necessarily learn anything that I didn't already know. I was putting into practice some of the hard work ethic things that I knew I needed to do in order to help this company succeed. So if I wouldn't have done that, I don't know when we would have got the work done. So it was just a necessary evil more than anything.
And how old is Kaylee now? 8?
Almost 8. Yep.
Almost 8.
Yep.
So you have 4 children under 8 years old because she's your oldest.
Yep.
Do you feel like running NeONBRAND is kind of affecting the way you're parenting them?
So over the years, I've had one of the well, let me put it in the reverse. Does raising my kids affect NeONBRAND? Because one of the struggles I guess over the years has been a lot of networking, things that I should go to probably that I can help meet new people and grow our business happens at night. And realistically, that's that's dad and kid and wife time. So I miss a lot of opportunities to go and do those kinds of things, which I would love to be at. I love hanging out with people like that because I'm hanging out with the kids who I also love to hang out with. So maybe there's been a loss there on the NeONBRAND side, but the gains in the home have been much more important to me than the work ever was. And then I also have a thought that says, if I can't figure out how to make NeONBRAND successful in a 40-hour work week, then I've got to be doing something wrong, because that is a dang lot of time to be spending on something, and to not have success after 40 hours. And sometimes, it does go on 50 hours, and I'm not always home by 5 or at 5, but that's a lot of time. So I should be able to figure it out and still be able to balance that work and home life.
And obviously you've experienced some great times, and you've probably experienced some lean times too, right? Yeah.
I remember when we were, it was like, company was 4 years old maybe, and the startup life is you're always cash poor, right? Everybody's always paying you something, hopefully next week, and that's how you survive. And so a couple of years into NeONBRAND, we had a Christmas time where there was just, Christmas is always hard in marketing. Most people are shutting out their books, they aren't looking to spend new money, so it's always slim. And as we've learned, FYI, if you're going into this, that's a slim time. So this one particular Christmas, we hadn't fully recognized that yet, and there just wasn't any money. And so barely enough to, pay rent, let alone buy Christmas presents for the 3 kids or 2 kids, however many it was at that time. So there was what was the, I can't even remember what we were talking about. The
good times, bad times.
Yeah, so there are those bad times where you have to figure out how to get food on the table and Christmas presents bought, and the wife has to help figure that out, and that's never fun for the wife to have to figure out. We just all wish there was plenty of money to spend on anything we wanted to all the time. So to have to really skimp in those times is sad and hard. But then, for every bad time, there's good times where every once in a while, and a great while, there'll be an extra chunk of money sitting in the account, and it's nice to take a draw and go on a trip or something, go drive down to San Diego, do something fun with the family to help grow that bond a little bit better. So anyways, yeah, there's definitely good times and bad times. I don't keep score. I don't know which ones there's been more of. I'm the guy that's unrealistically optimistic, so it's really hard for me to find the bad times very often. Most of the time I just put my head down and plow through and get back to the good times as quickly as possible. And my other thing that I do, whether or not it's for better or worse, a psychologist can counsel me later if needs be, but I don't ever talk about the bad times because, and I make an extra effort to talk about the good times all the time, because those are the ones I want to remember, and I don't want to remember the bad times. The more we focus on the bad, the worse the future becomes as well. So I spend most of my time talking about the good times and how much fun we're having.
And it kind of is a corollary to all of this is you've had to build a culture in NeONBRAND of being that kind of scrappy startup, even though it's past the startup phase at this point. We're a fairly established company. You've got several employees that have been with you for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So when you have that culture, you bring your family in a lot. You invite the employees' families in a lot. How do you get that kind of loyalty? Because the NeONBRAND team is super loyal to the NeONBRAND ideal.
Yeah, it's funny. You wrote that on a paper earlier when we were talking about topics, and I hadn't really thought about that before. But we do have quite the loyal following, and it's totally cliche, right? What I'm about to say is totally cliche, but it's the weird truth is that I love the people that I work with, and when you love the people that you work with in a work way, then those bonds are much, much better. So I love seeing our employees succeed in whatever it is. Like if they're doing client work, if they're doing their own work, whatever it is, that's fun and exciting, and I like relishing in those wins just as much as anybody. So it's as far as our loyalty goes, I think that's probably why, because people know that I'm their friend. I'm not just their boss, I'm their friend most of the time. And so hopefully they feel that when they're being loyal or not, I guess. Does that make sense?
When you listen to that next to Kurt's podcast, you're going to laugh.
Kurt said, well, because I'm the mean one, and I tell them to stay and be nice, and they have to, right? Like
yeah, Kurt said he's the tough parent.
Yeah,
he's the
exactly.
strict parent.
Yeah.
Which isn't necessarily false.
Yep.
But the two of you, it works as a great partnership.
It's the Bert and Ernie of the situation, right?
So your entrepreneurship stories are very different between you and Kurt. You came from different backgrounds. Kurt had no entrepreneurs in his family, and you came from an entrepreneurial family. Kurt always knew he wanted to be an entrepreneur, and you kind of thought you were going to go into law and follow the traditional course. And yet both of you are here kind of filling out both sides of this partnership in very meaningful ways. So the last thing that we'll talk about in this interview is, as an entrepreneur, you've had several partners, and partnership is tough for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially people who have wanted to be an entrepreneur their whole life. They kind of have this feeling, if I have to go it alone, I have to make it. So did you ever feel that, or were you always kind of like, I need to work with somebody?
So it's like the previous answer, I like people. I'm a people person. And so when the thought of going it alone comes up, it's kind of just a lonely, boring idea. And so, my first two partners grew out of that need. The first partner was because we started it together, and so we were bound together. But then he left me with the company, and I chose to bring on a second partner, and that was because I just think that two is better than one. 1 + 1 = 4, and so we can do a lot more things if there's a partner involved. And then after he left, I actually swore off partners. I was never, ever, ever, ever going to get a partner ever again because it was just too much pain. I'm friends with both of the first partners I had now, but it's tough breaking up a business partnership. It's not fun. So I said I'm never going to do it again. And then after a couple of years of Kurt and I hanging out and seeing that we worked pretty well together, I, for whatever crazy reason, decided to jump back into the partnership idea. And of course, I'm glad I did. I mean, we have different approaches to pretty much everything in life, but I think the main thing that keeps us going versus what may or may not have caused other things to not work is while we're both super passionate and we're both super we're both always right, especially Kurt, ask him. We both have the best answers to every question, and they're always different. All those things are still true. The main thing that Kurt and I have going for us is that we do not harbor ill feelings after a conversation's over. I mean, both of us are very much, after the conversation's over, okay, it's behind us, let's do something else. Let's next. Like it's very not in a bad relationship kind of way. We're both just very much, okay, decision made, whatever that was, whoever was right, whatever, we just move on and don't hold on to any of those bad feelings ever. So, and of course we work well. I mean, our discussions / arguments are usually pretty constructive, and we usually accomplish some really good things and come out with new ideas that we didn't have before. So, by being able to have those arguments, it's not that we don't have them, by having them in a healthy way that allows us to grow and come up with new ideas, I think it makes it to where we have that 1 + 1 = 4 kind of relationship. We grow a lot more.
And you're entrepreneurial in the joint venture.
Yep.
And it works out pretty darn well.
It's fun. It is a hustle. It is hard, entrepreneurship, but it's fun. And people, if you think you got it, give it a shot. Don't be afraid to fail. Try hard, work long hours if you have to. Figure out when you can do it. Still love those that you have around you. Take care of your families if you have to, and make sure if you work with employees that you take good care of them too. And give that hustle a shot. It's fun. It's different. It may fail, but you learn a lot along the way. And
we'll close with one quick question. Who's your favorite employee?
Oh, that would definitely be. Oh, it broke out there. Sorry. See you next time.